right, good morning, everyone. How are you all? Let me know how you're going this morning in the chat. Love to hear from you all. Looks like our numbers are dwindling as schools are going back to the physical classroom. Must be just some stragglers left from the different states. Let me know what state you're in, if your state's still not allowing you back at school yet. Now, today, we are going to be running a game again today. We are going to be doing a Kahoot, so you'll need that for later on. So grab another device, but we're going to do that at the end, or potentially split your screens. Also, remember to have a piece of paper handy so that you can do some of the questions yourself. Now, today's lesson is on integers. We're going to be talking about directed number. And from last week's lesson where we did rates and ratios, there were a lot of people who actually hadn't done the topic before. So this week, we're going to take a much more different approach. All other previous lessons we've done were very much review style. I expected you to know what was going on, and we were just kind of going back through the concepts and playing some games to help us consolidate on those ideas. Today is going to be much more of a normal teaching lesson. So it's like you're in my class, it'll be, but I've made it a little bit lighter. And these are the things that we're going to be doing today. So we're going to be talking to Math Master Yasmin again. We're going to have a couple of questions just to for you to kind of get to know me and allow people another couple of minutes to kind of come in. We're going to go through last week's puzzle, which, by the way, did anyone do the puzzle? Can you put up your hand if you did the puzzle from last week? We did have some chat at the end of last week about whether I should continue doing them, whether people were actually doing it. And so, you know, if no one's doing it, we might scrap that and it might give you more time to actually teach from now on as well. We're going to be looking at some interesting facts that have to do with directed number. We're going to be looking at temperature today. And we're going to, then I'll actually do some teaching and then we'll run through the Kahoot at the end. So everything that we do in this session will help you out with the game at the end. Now, I'll just call up Yaz to have a bit of a chat with me.
Hello.
Good morning, Yaz. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am excellent. Now, oh, I can see you. It's just that my screen share. Let me stop my screen share. Now, what we've been doing is we've been asking each other one question, and I would love to hear your responses in the chat about these questions too. So my question for you today, Yaz, is do you have any pets?
I do have one pet. He's a little puppy dog. His name is Upper, and he's at my feet right now. I'll see if I can get him to come up. Do you have any pets? Well,
no, I've actually grew up without ever having any pets.
Wow.
And so now I've just maintained that.
Yeah.
But something controversial. I actually think pet ownership is slavery. But hey.
I think my dog is too happy to be a slave.
Fair enough.
Yep.
No, you go.
I was just going to ask you, what do you like to do in your free time when you're not working, doing math?
Well, I have a family, so I spend a lot of time with my daughter. Basically, when I'm not working, I'm with her, just playing and going out and doing stuff. But besides that, when I get my own free time, I play a lot of games. And I do a lot of reading. So I am your typical nerd. What about you, Yaz?
What do? I like to go for walks with my dog, my enslaved dog. And I do, what else do I do? I don't really play games. I watch TV. I do like to watch TV. What does everyone else like to do?
Yeah. Any pets? What do you do in your spare time? Put them in the chat. And I guess what we might do while people are filling that in, we might actually make a start. So we've actually got 12 people on this call. Wow, someone has 17 cats.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's a lot of cats.
Crazy cat man. Someone else loves to read. I share your love there. All right, let's make a start, hey?
All right.
All right, thanks for chatting, Yaz.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so let me quickly share my screen again. Let's get into it. All right, So last week's puzzle was if you had a staircase with 12 steps and Isabel had to go down the steps, but she can choose between 1 or 2 steps. So she can, let me show you, there's a little picture here. So he starts at the top and Isabel kind of takes 1 step down, can take another 1 step down, or she can choose to take 2 steps down. So skipping the step in between. And she does this 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. That's one way of going down the staircase. And the question was, how many different ways can Isabel go down the staircase just by taking 1, 2 steps at a time? Now, I know no one else did this, but just so that I can close this off and make sure that no one's left hanging, here was one way of solving it. There were lots of different ways, but one way of solving it was to look for a pattern. So we basically have, if you only had 1 step, how many different ways could you go down that 1 step? Well, you can only take 1 step off 1 step, so there's only one way. If you had 2 steps, how could you do it? You could do a 1, 1, or you could just do a single 2 step. And so there are 2 different ways to do a 2 step staircase. And if you continue this pattern, do 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps, 6 steps, and you list out all the different ways you could kind of go down, you end up with these numbers here, right? So there's 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13 different ways for the first 6-step staircase. Can anyone see the pattern that's in the numbers at the end, the total numbers? Put it in the chat if you can see a pattern. Tell me what the pattern is. Give you 30 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Are they going up by the same amount? No. It goes up by 1, goes up by 1, but then it goes up by 2 when it goes from 3 to 5. Goes up from 5 to 8 goes 3. 8 to 13 adds 5. So it's not just adding the same every time. Now the pattern is very, very similar to a very famous pattern called the Fibonacci sequence. Ah, Rohit's got it. Yes, George has got it. Very, very similar to the Fibonacci sequence. Now, the difference with the Fibonacci sequence is that you start with 0 and 1, or sometimes some people say you start with 1 and 1 and you add them up, but you actually end up with the same sequence anyway, because 1 and 1 is 2, and then 1 and 2 is 3. But basically, the Fibonacci sequence is just adding the 2 previous numbers to get the next number. So you can see here, 1 and 2 is 3, 2 and 3 is 5, 3 and 5 is 8. 8 and 5 is 13. So you can see that Fibonacci sequence there. And if I want to find what my 12-step staircase, how many different ways you can go down it, I can just continue the sequence. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. 8 and 13 is 21. 21 and 13 is 34, and going all the way up to 12. So there are 233 ways to kind of jump down that 12-step staircase. There are other ways you do it. So when you get to year 11 and 12, you might learn something called combinatorics. And that's basically a way to do this problem, but in a different and I would even say more elegant way. So you have lots of good maths to look forward to. Now let's actually get going into the actual math. We're going to be talking about directed numbers. Directed numbers basically is positive and negative numbers. Now, I'm going to be teaching this from scratch. So if you have any questions as we go along and you're like, I have no idea what you're saying, Richmond, can you stop and pause and talk to me about something that I've just said, or go over something I just said again, please feel free to talk to me in the chat and let me know, or talk to Yaz or go through the Q&A and we'll answer you there. So let's talk temperatures. Is probably the best way to, one of the best ways to think about positive and negative numbers. Someone tell me, where do you think the hottest place on Earth is? And tell me how hot you think it gets there. All right, don't do a Google search. I know some of you little cheats are pulling up your other browser and searching it. Where do you think the hottest place on Earth is? I had no idea where this was, by the way. Put your answers into the chat. And how hot do you think it's gotten? Just to let you know, I did some research. in a volcano. Yeah, that's probably pretty hot. Let's talk, rather than subsurface temperatures, let's talk about surface temperatures where we live, all right? Like the temperatures that would be reported on the news. No, Ibrahim's done a Google search and he's wrong. I was going to do a pear deck, but it didn't matter. Here's your what do you call it? Map of the world, but I've got a heat map, right? And this was really cool. There was this site called Climate Reanalyzer, and basically you can take all this global weather data and have a look at it over long periods of time. So this was the weather data for 2 days ago, because I grabbed this picture yesterday, so I could only have the day before that. And it was really cool. These are the maximum temperatures, and you can see here that there's this really interesting band of hot weather through the center. And you can see here, the darker it is, right? Look at the scale down the bottom. The color tells you how hot things are. And so even, I guess it's really, we're coming out to winter. We're just at the end of autumn. So most of Australia is still pretty hot, especially that tropical region, still pretty hot, but down the bottom, it's actually quite cool. And we're getting some nice, like, cold weather. But in the middle, like in this middle of Africa and in here, I'm going to reveal how terrible my geography is. Does anyone know what this country is? I'm assuming India, but not quite sure. But yeah, this whole area here was pretty hot yesterday. Got up to 35-ish degrees, maybe closer to 40 degrees. But anyway, where was the hottest recorded? Oh no, that's the wrong one. Oh, I didn't put in my other slide. Oh, well, where do you think the coldest places on Earth are then? Right, so we just looked at the hottest. Where are the coldest places on Earth? Well, this kind of shows it, but in reverse, right? So, yeah, people have got it. Antarctica is the coldest place. Let me show you. This is the minimum temperatures for yesterday, and you can see here that Antarctica down the bottom here, super cold, right? Like down all this purple stuff, -30, -30 degrees Celsius, goes to this white area, which is like up to -60 degrees Celsius. Water freezes at 0, right? So this is like nearly double the freezing point of water. Maybe 1.5 times probably be a bit more accurate. Now, couple more questions for you. What do you think the hottest temperature recorded on Earth is? All right, put in a number, any number. How hot do you think our sensors have gotten? 500 degrees? I don't think so. 500 is a lot. I don't think we could survive. Anything could survive on 500 degrees. Oh, well, I guess there are deserts and barely anything survives in those, though. All right, ready? Everyone got their answers in? 56.7 degrees in a place called Death Valley, which is in America somewhere. I'd never heard of it, but apparently gets up to like 57 degrees. I die when it gets to 33 degrees, right? Even 30 degrees, I start to struggle. I do not do well in heat. But 56.7, that's like double. I don't know what you do. You'd have to stay in air conditioning all day. I don't know how you'd survive out there. What is the coldest temperature on Earth that's ever been recorded? Put your guesses in to the chat. Don't look it up. That's not the fun of this. I guess I kind of gave you a bit of a ballpark when I showed you that map before. All right, the coldest temperature on Earth ever recorded was -89.2 degrees. Sophia was probably the closest at a science station in Antarctica called Vostok Station. Yeah, so it gets pretty crazy cold out there. Again, I don't know how you'd survive there. I guess not. Again, in these extreme temperatures, not much does survive. Okay, so we're going to be talking about directed number. And the traditional way of thinking about directed number is this number line. So we're going to be talking about how do you add, subtract, multiply, and divide numbers that are positive and negative. And I know that a lot of you have probably ideas and rules about how to do this, but we're going to kind of revisit all of those things. But I'm going to take it less from this is just a rule, and so that's how you do it, and really try and come up with a mental model that you can use whenever you're doing questions like this. We're going to start very simple, and then we're going to try and look at the results that we're getting and try and make some extrapolations and then try and get the rules from there. So I'm going to do some drawing on my screen here. If I said to you, ladies and gentlemen, what is -3 plus 5? Okay. Can anyone, well, maybe just think to yourselves, because it's pretty hard to write in explanations. Anyone know how to get this answer? All of you know what the answer is, but I want you to think to yourself, if you were to use a number line, how would you actually get the answer? Okay. Think about, would you be able to explain this to someone who's in year 5? Because what's important here isn't the answer. What's important here is that you know the process to go through in order to get the answer. Because obviously I'm giving you quite simple numbers now, but once we make them bigger numbers, being able to know the answer isn't good enough because you need a way to work it out. So yeah, lots of people have got the right answer. You start at whatever the first number is. You could actually start at either, it doesn't really matter, but most people start at the first number. So I'm going to start at -3, which is here. And then what does the plus sign tell you to do? The plus sign tells you to move in a particular direction, which is to go towards the right. Because when we're adding, we're increasing. And so we've got to go to the right. How many times to the right do we have to go? We have to go to the right 5 times. So the plus sign tells you to go right, plus sign tells you to go 5 times. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so -3 goes up, going up, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. So we're at 2. Okay. Let me do a couple more, and then we're going to look for some patterns here. Let's say I've got 7 take 10. All right. Now everyone again knows the answer, but again, let's do the mental model. Where do we start? We start at the 7, and the negative tells you to move left, right? So plus tells you to go right, adding, taking away tells you to go down the number line, getting smaller, so go to the left. So I go left 10 times. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I end up at -3. Okay, so there are actually 4 main combinations that you can get here, right? And I'm going to write them all up, and I want you to tell me what are the combinations of numbers that you can get, and what is the outcome of those numbers, right? What is the shortcut way to figure out what these numbers would be? So I will write here, this was 2. Let me do another one. Let me do one in purple. So let's do the next one. Might be, let's see, -7 plus 1. Okay. So -7 plus 1. I'm just going to do this because everyone seems to be quite good at this. So start at -7, adding 1 goes to the right one, and I end up at -6. And what's another one? Okay, let's do this one. 4 take 2. Okay, so 4 take 2. Everyone should know that one. It is 2. So start at 4. Oh, I did in purple again. 1, 2. All right, so I'm in up 2. Someone tell me, what do you see in all of these numbers? Someone said it before. Someone said it a little bit. but was talking about a specific, about a specific problem. Someone tell me a pattern you see here. Someone said the value is attached to the sign. Yes, that's absolutely true. So the negative is, let me show, the negative is attached to this 3 and the positive is attached to this 5. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm really what I'm asking is, with all of these different examples that you're seeing here, how do the two numbers interacting, what do they have to do with the final answer that we get? Right. So let me just tell you then. Yeah, someone's got it. The answer is the difference between them. And so what do we notice about each of the numbers that we're adding or subtracting together here, right? Notice that one number is always negative and the other number is positive. And whenever we're doing that, we're actually always just finding the difference between the two numbers. Can someone else tell me the observation that you see about the answer being positive or negative? What do you notice? So negative 3 plus 5 is 2, 7 take 10 is negative 3, negative 7 plus 1 is negative 6, and 4 take 2 is just positive 2. What do we notice about the two numbers that we're adding or subtracting and the sign of the answer? You're right, plus does go right and left is negative. But what I'm saying really is, like, the fact that we've got a negative 3 and positive 5, what do we see about those numbers that gives us a positive 2? And what do we see about a 4, positive 4, and a negative 2 that gives us a positive 2? What do we see about a 7 and a negative 10 that gives us a negative 3? And what do we see about negative 7 and a positive 1 that gives us a negative 6? Right? I'll give you another 10 seconds to have a think. And the answer to this is that the size of the numbers matter, right? What is a bigger positive means that we get the answer being a positive, right? So 5 is bigger than the negative 3. So the answer will be positive. And the 4 on the bottom right is bigger than the negative 2. So the answer is a positive. So I can actually do these calculations quite quickly by combining these two ideas, right? How big are the numbers I'm adding or subtracting? And then find the difference. And then that's what my answer is going to be. Right, so Aurelia, I'm just going to ask you to stop writing random stuff in there and just stay on task, please. So looking at the other ones, 7 take 10, the negative 10 in terms of like magnitude, right, like is going to be much more negative or much smaller than the 7. The 10 is in some sense bigger than the 7. So when I do that subtraction or when I do that calculation, the answer is going to be negative. The negative 7 is smaller than the 1 is big. So that means when I do that answer, the final answer is going to be negative. So because I know that all I'm doing is when I've got a positive and a negative, I'm finding the difference. The difference between 7 and 10 is 3. And then because 10 is I'm subtracting away more than the positive has, I know the answer is going to be negative, right? So I'm going to do one very, very quickly. I'm going to do a couple of bigger numbers quickly. And what I want you to do is I want you to combine these two ideas. When I have a positive and negative, just find the difference and figure out which one's bigger, the positive or the negative, and write what the sign is. So let me clear all of this. And I want you to tell me, what is negative 25 plus 13? Tell me what the answer is in the chat. 5 seconds. Someone's got it. It's negative 12, right? The negative is bigger than the positive, so the answer is going to be negative. And 25, the difference between 25 and 13, take off 10, take off 3. 25 take 10 is 15, take away another 3 is 12. Negative 12, right? Let's try this again. What is 36 take 21? Right, some people have got it. Some people have said negative 15, some have say 15. Which one is it? Well, let's have a look. The right answer is right, like it should be 15 or negative 15, but which one is it? Which one's bigger? the 36 or the 21? Well, the 36 is positive and bigger than the negative 21, so the answer will be positive 15. Okay, so that's some ways to think about it. And again, if you get really stuck, come back to the number line and go from there. So let's do one other case. Well, there's two other cases that can really work here. So what happens when you have -3, oops, take away 5? All right, no need to spam. Some people have got it. They've said it's -8. So let's just do the model of the, so we start at -3 and we go backwards 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And we end up at -8. All right, let's do another one. What is negative, oh, hang on. Yeah, what is -1 take away 2? Good. Someone's got it, -3. So start at -1, go back 2, 1, 2, goes to -3. What is -4 take, oops, I did it in yellow again. Let me change the color. -4 take 2. What's that going to be? All right. So I'm just going to do 3 for this one this time. Tell me what you notice, please. What do you notice about -3, -5, and -8? -1, -2, and -3, -4, -2, and -6. Tell me the pattern you see. Ten seconds. Okay, so yeah, both are negative numbers. So when we're someone said negative is always negative. What I want to get us away from thinking about is, I know there are some rules that people say, you know, like a negative and a negative is this or whatever. And I guess those rules really just tend to work for multiplication and division. So what I really want us to think about here is when I'm subtracting a negative number from another negative number, what in general the results will be. Okay, so someone is right. When I've got two negative numbers or a negative number being subtracted by another number, the answer is always negative. What do we notice about the number at the end? The 8, the 6, and the 3. How do they relate to? How does the 8 relate to the 3 and the 5? The 3 relate to the 1 and the 2, and the 6 relate to the 4 and the 2. Ten seconds. Right, so these numbers, yeah, that's right. So the numbers at the end is really just the sum of the numbers in the subtraction, right? So 3 and 5 give you the 8, 1 and 2 give you the 3. So when I'm doing a negative number, subtract another number, I just automatically know that the number will be negative because I'm just going more and more in the negative side. And I know that I can just add the two numbers together. So let's try a couple. Let's see if you can put these two ideas together. And by the way, that's the same works for two positive numbers, right? Like, let's see. So if I've got 3 and 5, right? Like I just know that the two numbers together are going to be a positive because we're not taking away. We're not going into that negative zone. And so I know that that's just going to be add them together is 8. So two positives, when you're adding them together, when you add a positive to a positive, gives you a positive number. And when you have two negatives, a negative being subtracted by another number, always give you a negative. All right, so let's try a couple. I'm just going to give you one actually, because we got to move through. -17, take 5, please. Right? So again, you don't really need to care about the negatives. You just need to add it together and then figure out what that is and then just put a negative on it. So 17 and 5 is 22. And so that gives you -22. Too easy. All right, so let's keep moving. So another way that I found to kind of look at this is, and I'm going to zoom through this next part pretty quickly, so let me know if you need me to slow down, is, oh, wait, whoa, what's going on? I don't know where this is going. No, no pear deck, no. Let's try this. So one of the things that we have to do that that you have to be able to show to your teacher is being able to order directed numbers, right? So can you please for me write down in the chat, what is the order in ascending order of all of these numbers, right? Ascending, remember, means you start from the smallest and you go to the biggest. So what is the smallest number? Put that down. And the next smallest number, write that down. And so just remember that, yeah, just write it to me as a list, please, not just one at a time. Tell me the whole order of numbers. -11 is the first, or is the smallest number here. I wonder if it's all right. I wonder if it's okay to say the biggest negative number. Yeah, some people have got it. So notice that these numbers, let me just draw on my screen. Just look at the chat actually, right? Yeah, everyone's got it. So the bigger the negative, the smaller it is. And then obviously as they go up, they get closer and closer to 0, right? And then as they get bigger past 0, then their numbers start to grow like we normally expect. Okay, cool. So got that skill down packed. So another way to think about this, I'm actually going to exit out of this display mode. One way that I found really cool about it is adding and subtracting integers is kind of like, does anyone know what these two pictures relate to and what these what this little house relates to? Can anyone tell? I really like animations. So yeah, it's from the movie Up. And basically the movie is a story about an old man who puts a whole lot of balloons in his house to make it fly away. And that's what we're going to think about here. So imagine that every time I put a balloon on this house, I'm adding 1, right? And so I put the balloon on the house and he kind of goes whoop, and he flies up 1 level, right? Or you can think of it as subtracting 1 as every time you put a little weight on him, right? This is actually really fiddly. I probably should have created lots of these, right? Or if you put a little weight on this flying house, it kind of sinks it down 1, right? And so I just thought it was a really cool idea. So the more that you add, the more he kind of floats up. Just in case you didn't like the number line idea, I guess technically it is the number line idea, except just in picture format, I guess. And then it goes, if he's got 2 balloons, he kind of goes up another level. So yeah, another way to kind of think about adding and taking away. And so notice that if you have a weight and a balloon, notice that one of these weights and one of these balloons will cancel out and it'll actually bring him back down to here. Right. Ooh. Right. And the reason why I'm really telling you this is because I thought it was cool, but also because some people don't like that number line. I know lots of you here are pretty smart cookies, and the number line is sufficient. But hey, if you don't like it, try this balloon and weight idea. So yeah. So notice that we can kind of like look at these kind of addings and these subtractings, the balloons that are pushing us up and the weights that are pulling us down, and kind of like just cancel them out and figure out what's left over, right? So if I've got 1 weight pulling me down and 1 weight pulling up, they're obviously going to cancel out, and we're going to end up at +1 here. Interestingly, like you can kind of apply this idea to multiplication and division as well. I found the main reason why I showed you the thing before is because I wanted to kind of give you another idea about how multiplying and dividing the integers work, but I couldn't do it on the number line very well, so I thought I'd try it this way, right? So let's say you've got the house has 1 balloon on it, and let's say I multiplied those balloons by, I don't know, by 5, right? Now, what happens is what we expect, which is, we expect that, like, if we multiply one balloon by 5, it kind of goes up. We get 5 balloons, and so the house would be lifted up like 5. Let's just put this into units. Let's say every balloon raises you up a meter. It'll pull you up 5 meters. And so multiplying just positive numbers is like we expect. 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Like most of you should know your times tables, and multiplying positive numbers is perfectly fine. Like easy. But I want to talk about multiplying negatives. So let's get rid of these. Oh, I can't get rid of all of them if I need them later. All right. So notice that if is that if I have my negative weight and I multiply it by 3, I end up with actually 3 weights pulling me down. And if I get out of this drawing mode, if I had 2 weights and I had 3 lots of those 2 weights, right? Let's pick a different number. Let's say I had 2 lots of those 2 weights, negative 2 weights, right? So I have 1 lot of negative 2, right? Because remember, multiplication is just like groups of. It's just a quick form of addition. So here we go. And I had lots of negative amounts, right? It's like in here, I've got negative 2, and I'm adding another negative 2, right? I've got 2 lots of that negative 2. Or I could just basically say negative 2 take 2 is negative 4. So when we're multiplying a negative amount by a positive, we end up with lots of negative amounts. Similarly, if I said to you, let me get rid of all of this. Let's say I've got my negative amount here. I need to get out my drawing. Let's say I want to take this amount, and let's say I've got negative 2, and I want to multiply it by another negative number. So let me try this. So let's say I've got negative 2, and I want to multiply that by negative 3. Now, just thinking about the model and less about the answer, because I need the answer straight away, and because we've already got a rule that behind this. Again, this is just another way. If you don't get the rules, this is another way to think about it. So I've got this group of negative 2, and I want negative 3 of them. So what this means is that I want to reverse the direction. Rather than pulling them down, I want to actually change the direction and have 3 lots of the opposite direction. And so what I can do here is I go, okay, I want 3 lots of that negative 2, but I don't want 3 lots of weights pulling me down. I want the opposite direction. I want 3 lots of going up, right? So I'm going to just copy this. So here's my first 2 balloons. Here's my second 2 balloons. Here's my third 2 balloons. So I've now got 3 lots of 2, but in the opposite direction, and these guys are no more weights. And so I actually end up having 6 balloons pulling me up. And so this answer is 6. I'm just trying to write here. Okay. And so that's an interesting idea about how to think about multiplying positive and negative numbers, right? If you have, we could take this idea and go, okay, what's 3 times negative 1, right? And I'm using small numbers on purpose so I don't have to like copy and paste a bajillion balloons and weights. Oh no. Oh, there they are. So if I want to do 3 times negative 1, right? I can have my 3 balloons. So here's 3 balloons, oops. And what it means is I want to have one lot of them, but in the opposite direction. Oh, got rid of them, I need them, right? So one lot of 3 is still 3, but in the opposite direction. And that gives me my -3, right? So this is kind of where the ideas of the rules come out, and I'll write the rule in a second. But again, just another way to think about it. So what are these rules that I keep referring to? Can I please just emphasize that these rules only relate to multiplication and division? What we talked about before with the addition and subtraction, that's the way that you need to think about it whenever you're adding or subtracting, right? Like, okay, how big are the numbers I'm adding or subtracting? Do I have a positive and a negative? And do I have 2 negatives, 2 positives? And then kind of think about the addition and subtraction the way that we just talked about it. When we're talking about multiplying and dividing, these rules only apply to this, which is when I've got a plus and I'm multiplied by another positive, well, that's just like all the multiplication we mostly do, which is it ends up with a positive number. Similarly, if I have 2 negatives and I multiply them together, right, and I've shown you just on that first, this one here, right, you actually end up with a positive number as well. And then if you ever have 2 different numbers, 2 different signs of the numbers, they will always be negative, right? So my rule that I get my kids to learn is if they're both the same, you get the same. If they're both different, you get negative, right? There's probably a better word, a better way to phrase that. But 2 same gives you the same, 2 different gives you negative. 2 same gives you positives, different gives you negative, I should say. Okay, so that's multiplying and dividing integers. How much time do we have left? We got about 15 minutes. All right, I'm going to jump into Mathspace. I'm going to do a couple of questions out of it, and then we will play our Kahoot. So give me a second. I'm just going to clear all my drawings. Okay. Let me just pull this up. Can everyone see my new black screen? Can everyone see the screen that I'm logging into Mathspace with? Whoa. Okay. This is what I was trying to do before. It didn't work. What on earth? All right, let me try again. Here we go. All right. We're just going to do a couple of questions, and then we'll jump into a Kahoot. All right, let's go. So the first one starts real easy, all right? So as soon as you know the answer, I want you to call it out, and I'll put them in. All right, where is the point plotted on the number line? Oh, come on, this is too easy. Boom, 4. Right. Let me skip ahead a few. There's quite a few in here. Which number is the smallest? Someone tell me. Yeah, -21. You got it. So by the way, if you have Mathspace, I strongly suggest you come in here and you kind of do all this work as well. Get your mastery up. Okay, the melting point of krypton is -157. The melting point of mercury is -39. Write an inequality. Now, we haven't talked about inequalities, but let me just very quickly tell you that inequality signs are this, and this, right? They are your greater than and less than signs. Remember that the mouth is always pointed towards the bigger one. So when we say it, we don't actually we have to know how to read those signs. But when we actually write it, it doesn't matter a whole lot, right? We're just going to make sure that the mouth is pointing to the bigger one. So we could write it both ways, right? We could write it this way, right? Oh, oops, other way, right? So remember 157, even though it's a really big number, it's really negative. It's that which makes it actually really small. So the -157 is really small, and the -39 is actually bigger than the 157. Yeah, so we could do it that way. If we switch them around, we could put the negative 39 first, but then we just switch the inequality sign around, and that works too. Let me see if there's another one in here with inequalities. No, there isn't. I'm going to skip this one. This one's too easy. How do I get rid of this writing on my screen? Here we go. All right. What's negative 9 plus 9? When you have a positive and negative of exactly the same number, what does it always end up being? 0. Boom. All right, let's go ahead to the harder ones. All right. Well, this one has 3 numbers in it. Negative 2 plus 9 takes 6. Now, the one thing that I will say here is what is probably easiest to do is just to group, right? You just do what's easy first, and then because they're adding and subtracting all at the same time, you can work left to right, or you can potentially group. So what I would probably do here is I'd group the 9 and the negative 6 because they're biggest and they're easy to take away, which gives you 3, and then do negative 2 plus 3, or 3 take 2, same thing, gives you 1. Cool. How many more we got here? Let's skip ahead. All right. Oh, we haven't talked about this, right? Now, one thing that we need to talk about is I forgot to mention just before, is that when you have 2 signs together just like this, it's actually a multiplication of signs, right? So when I've got negative of negative 6, right? It's like this is when you don't see a number, right? Remember that there is actually a number there, and that is negative 1, right? So this is pretty much like negative 1 times negative 6. The 1 times 6 doesn't actually change anything, right? Because 1 times anything is just itself. So 1 times 6 is still going to be 6. But the negative times the negative, we kind of have to follow the ideas that we just talked about with multiplying negative numbers. 2 negatives multiplied gives you a positive. So that gives you a positive 6. So what we can rewrite this equation as is negative 4. The 2 negatives multiply together, giving you a positive. And then you go negative 4 plus 6, right? So remember that the sign only changes for that second number because it's got the 2 signs. And the 4, the negative on the 4 stays exactly the same. So negative 4 plus 6, then we do what we normally do. One's positive, one's negative, so you just find the difference, and then the bigger number is positive, so it's going to be positive overall, which means that the number is positive 2. Clear it all. Okay, I hope there's another one here. Yeah, okay, so same thing here, 15 plus negative 12. We can simplify this by combining the positive and the negative, right? So remember, this is like positive 1 times by negative 12, right? And again, the 1 and the 12 don't do anything. It's just going to be 12. We just need to figure out what's the sign going to be. And the positive and the negative, well, when a positive times a negative is a negative number. So that means that's just going to be negative 12. So this is the same as 15 take 12, and 15 take 12 is 3. Okay, so when you see 2 signs right next to each other, simplify it first, and then do the normal addition or subtraction. Is there one more that I might be able to do? No. All right. What is the number plotted on this number line? All right, it tells you 4/7, right? I'm just going to skip this one. I'm not even going to bother to do it. Let me see what else there is here. All right. Which of these fractions is closest to 0? Oh, this is an interesting question. Any ideas? A or B? A or B? The answer is, well, it's definitely B, right? If we did our number line, okay, last one, and we're going to move on. Here's 0. Now, negative 7/11, if here's 1, and here's 1, so if this is negative 1, this is negative 7/11 is in between 0 and 1. It's like maybe here, right? It's over halfway. Whereas 14/11, well, 14 over 11 is actually an improper fraction. It's actually 1 point something. So it's actually over here somewhere, right? This is 14 over 11 over here. So we can see that since like the negative sigma of 11 is much closer to the other one. So it's this one here. All right, let's get out of this. Let's go game time. All right, jump into a different device or split your screens, and we're going to run one last Kahoot. We've got 10 minutes, so we're going to do this quick. No puzzle for today because people just weren't really into the puzzles. So if you want them back, let me know. Kahoot. Wrong one. You need to go to kahoot.it, but I need to go to kahoot.com and launch it. I don't remember my login. Please log in automatically. No. I'm going to turn off my share screen for a second. All right, I'm in. Let's go. Okay. Where are my Kahoots? Here we go. All right, let's play. Oh, you can see the numbers. Okay, I've got to randomize the order. And cool. All right, let's go. Game options. All right. All right, go to kahoot.it. Type in the number 2736454. Is it just me or have the game pins gotten really big? There must be a lot of people playing. Yeah, thanks for coming, Jen. Have a good day. I'll see you next week. Out of curiosity, for those of you who've been coming regularly, do you guys have a favorite game or quiz that I've been running? Type it in. What have we done in the past? We did a Kahoot in the past. We did Gimkit. We did, we did the Pear Deck quiz. We did quizzes, I think. If you know of any other ways that I could kind of run a game, let me know, and I'll definitely check it out and give it a go. Yeah, I did like Gimkit as well. It's very different. Kahoot is probably my go-to for teaching. 10 people in. How many people are we waiting on? It's 14 people. Are you going to play, Yaz?
I will not play today.
Okay, all right. I think maybe one more person. We're going to start in 10 seconds. Otherwise, you can join in midway, I think, anyway. All right, let's go. 18 questions, 10 seconds each question. Let's go. -29, take 31. Remember those rules. Yeah. Oh, some people are too slow. Only 4 people answered. Yeah, it's 29 and 31 together gives you 60, and then they're both negative, so it's -60. Oh. -300 plus 520. Positive and negative is the bigger number is positive. One's positive, one's negative, so just find the difference. Yeah, that's right, it's 220, not -220. I have a feeling this is not doing what I want it to do. -180 divided by 20. So division is the same as multiplication. Use the same rules. Just do the division instead. Yeah, so remember, 18 divided by 2 is 9. So 180 divided by 2 is 90. But 180 divided by 20, the zeros will cancel, giving you 9 again. And a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So there you go, -9. -80 plus 35, what is it? negative 45. The negative number is bigger, so the overall is going to be negative. And the difference between 80 and 35 is 45. Oh, I know what this has done. I've selected the wrong option. 5 times negative 3, what is it? It is 5 3s are 15, and a positive and a negative times a negative is a negative. 1,440 divided by 12. $144 divided by 12 is 12. So that means 144 divided 100. That 1,440 divided by 12 is just 12 with a 0 on it, which is 120. Five plus 7. Is an easy one for you. 3 times 8, another easy one. 24, excellent, good work, everyone. 12 take 18, all right, this is gonna take a bit of thinking. Yeah, the difference is 6, but because the negative is bigger, the negative number is bigger, the whole thing's gonna be negative. All right, negative 8 take negative 5, let's go. When you take a negative, you can change that, simplify that. So when you're taking away a negative 5, it's like you're adding 5. So negative 8 plus 5 is negative 3. Take 8, another easy one. Good job. All right, negative 35 plus negative 4. When you add a negative, it's the same as just taken away. So 35 take 4 is the negative 39. Amazon Dolphins on a streak. Negative 17 take 5. Oh, one of the options is missing. Negative 22. So the negative, this is where people often make the mistake, right? And this is where I'm trying to get you to not just think about the rule negative and a negative is a positive. So remember, we're taking away 2 numbers, which means that the overall result will still be negative, right? Because you've got negative 17 going backwards 5, negative 18, negative 19, negative 20, negative 21, negative 22. So you just got to be careful because that's people tend to misapply those multiplication rules. All right. Negative 121 divided by negative 11. Negative divided by a negative, and then 121 divided by 11. What is that? So this is where you have to apply that rule that we were talking about. Negative divided by a negative is a positive number, and then 121 divided by 11 is 11. Okay, negative 9 times 6. What's that? It is negative 54. Okay, last couple. Negative 7 times negative 12. Seven 12s are negative times negative is positive 84, right? Ne 18 take negative 8. When you take away a negative is the same as, so 18 plus 8 is 26. Now, I hope I don't know if some of you would have noticed, but all the answers were A. Oh no, there's one more question. Oh, thank goodness. This one wasn't the first one. 56 divided by -7. -8. Ah, I tricked you. So I went through and I made all of the answers A, except for a couple. I don't know why I randomly made the other ones not, but I was meant to flip an option that randomized the answers, but I flipped the option that randomized the question order, not the answer order. So, all right, Funny Pelican, who was that? Good job. Ah, number 2 is Agent Lobster. Number 1, who's that? Dolphin. Well done. So feel free to gloat in the chat. Go George. Okay, thank you so much everyone for joining us today. We're just slightly over time, so we're just going to wrap it up. If you have any questions, please stay behind in the chat and we'll answer them. However, one thing that I do really want to ask you to do is the survey that comes out at the end of every session. Please fill it in. Let me know how I'm going. And again, if you want to see different things come into this session, if you have an idea for a game or something that you want me to do, please feel free to let me know. Thanks everyone for joining. This is lesson number 7. And so we've probably got another 5 to go. So one more month, hopefully you can stick around. If not, that's okay, go back to school. Your teachers will be wanting to see you anyway. All right, so thanks for joining everyone. Have a good day, bye.